Hi there, Stephen from Owner Disown. Well, I have purchased the new 2021 Helios 300. You know, I've actually reviewed the 2019 one and the 2021, and now, of course, the latest one. Now, it has the RTX 3060, and it's a 100 watt max 3060. And the CPU, it has a i7-10750H, so it's Intel. It's a shame there's no Ryzen, but that's what it is. And I imagine they probably will be updating it with the 11th gen very soon, I imagine. So this is, of course, an unboxing. Quick little test, show you the thermals and, you know, general performance metrics. And then later I'll do a live stream showing more performance and a review. So the box is reminiscent of exactly what it was like before. You know, very nice. Inside, we get the premium service card here, so that's nice. The quick start guide and a setup guide. And before we open the laptop, the power supply. It's a fairly small 230 watt power brick, so that's not bad. Now, they use the same chassis as last year. It's not a bad thing because it was a nice chassis, as you can see here. So, like last year, we get an aluminium lid with the blue chevrons either side and the Predator logo on the top. Underneath, it is ABS plastic, and we'll show you inside in a little bit. And the keyboard deck is made of aluminium, like before, with the same type of blue accents, and some air intakes here, and the turbo button located up at the top like we had before. So you still have the separate number pad with the Predator button here to activate their software and to, you know, change, you know, alter the fan control, that type of thing. Now, the panel is a 1080p 16:9 144 hertz, and I measured about 94% of sRGB, and it was pretty bright as well. I think around about 350 nits or so, which is a very decent panel. Now, it's no G-Sync or FreeSync or anything like that, but it's a nice basic panel. The only issue I've had with these type of panels sometimes is the backlight bleed, so we'll take a look at that. But all in all, it's a solid design. One thing I did have a problem with last time was the fans. They would pulse up and down, and I did hear some reports of failures of the fans. So backlight bleed, Helios 300 on the left, Legion 5 Pro on the right. The Helios has a bit of bleed at top right hand corner, but certainly better than the previous models they had, whilst the Legion 5 is more of a glow. So the underside is exactly the same as it was last year. Same ABS plastic, the same 11 screws to gain access, and of course the same air intakes. Opening up, and we've got much the same as well. 59 watt hour battery as before, and also we also have the same 2.5 inch bay, and they're kind enough to supply the necessary hardware to mount it. The SSD slot here is much the same, so it's an ADATA 1TB. We've got a Killer 1650, a Wi-Fi 6 card. We've got dual channel Hynix 16GB of RAM, and we have the 3060 Max Q here and a 10750H here. Now, one slight difference: previously this heat pipe would go across there, so it's now further down here, but we have the same fans. We have one plastic fan and one metal fan going through 4 heat sinks, and there seems to be just that one SSD slot. Taking a look at the ports, we've got the Helios 300 actually on the top, we've got the Omen 15 here at the bottom, and in the center we've got the Legion 5 Pro. So just so you can gauge the thickness of the various devices. So on the right hand side we have a USB-C. Now, you can't use that to power the laptop, unfortunately. We'd have a USB Type A, HDMI, and mini display port. Now around the back, of course, you see the heatsinks are anodized blue, and you have the power port. No other connections at the back. And on the left hand side, we have, of course, another air vent, Ethernet port, 2 USB-As, and a combo headphone mic jack. So the Cinebench R20 multi-threaded test. We've got 3700 megahertz on all 6 cores, running at around about, 78 degrees. That's not too bad. This is auto fan, auto power mode, and you can see the power is 70 watts. The PL1 is 70 watts, PL2 107 watts. And let's see what score we get. 2,812 points. All right, so now using the max fan. And about 62 decibels over the laptop. And from the user perspective, it's about 57 decibels. So it's pretty loud, of course. So let's have a look at the thermals. Let's look at the 3000, about 3800 megahertz boost clock. Thermals have come down a little bit, but I'd say about 7 degrees to about 71 degrees. So that's pretty decent. Of course, the watts are still holding the same 69, 70 watts. But the fan speed, max fan does increase it, of course, the GPU up to 6000 RPM and 4615 RPM on the CPU. Whilst auto fan, we'll see that drop down to around about 2200 RPM. So here we have Far Cry New Dawn, just with the objective to see what the temperatures are like. And this is using the auto fan and the normal power mode. So we're like at about 85 degrees on the CPU and the GPU about 71 degrees. The GPU is pulling about 81 watts and the CPU about 42. Of course, Dynamic Boost 2.0 doesn't play too well on this game, but it still makes the CPU run pretty hot. So let's look at what the fan noises on this. So looking at about 50 decibels on the auto fan, and the fans do whir in and out like the 2020 model, so that's a little bit disconcerting. So let's switch it to max fan, and as expected, it brings the temperatures down quite nicely. Perhaps the low 80s on the CPU and 63 degrees on the GPU. So looking at the results in Far Cry New Dawn, a game that does favour the Intel CPUs, as you can tell, with it beating the 130 watt Legion 5 Pro. But it is within sniffing distance of the RTX 3070 Omen 15. Again, that's with the i7, same CPU, and it's very close to that. So looking at the benchmarks in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the Helios 300 does pretty well, particularly in turbo mode, where the extra power does help indeed, putting it within spitting distance of the Gigabyte G5, and actually only say 10% behind the Omen 15 with the RTX 3070 when that was using G-Sync and dedicated GPU mode. So that's pretty decent, and it did have the beat of the Zephyrus G15 with its RTX 3070, of course using Optimus. And in 3D Mark, you find that it's actually around about 10% faster than the Legion 5 with the RTX 2060. So that's not too bad. It's very close to the RTX 3060 in the Gigabyte G5. So there you go, quick first look. So what do I think of it? Well, it's the same design as last year, isn't it? And if you like that design, then go for it. I personally would like to have seen something a bit different for 2021, and perhaps the refresh for the 11th gen, they may do something a bit different. Now I do have the 3070 model coming into me, and I'll do a bit of a comparison between the two, of course. Now perhaps my main concern, as it was last year, is the fact that the fans do pulse up and down a little bit, and I did have some reports last year of some of the fans failing. It did run pretty cool. It ran, very good, certainly for an Intel system, and it's certainly pretty much on par with the 105 watt RTX 3060 in a Gigabyte G5. And of course, for about $1,400 or so, it's actually not too bad a value now. Of course, I bought mine from Amazon, link in the description below, and that, if you do use that link, then that does certainly help my channel, so thank you for that. Anyway, stay tuned, and I will be doing a live stream performance test on my next video. Thank you then, bye.